Welcome to an emergency broadcast of the Overshadowed podcasts. Charles is not here with us today, but I felt it was my duty as a member of the mainstream media to come on here and to report with a heavy heart, might I add, about the tragedy that's currently unfolding on the tropical island of Fiji. Cierra has been voted off of Love Island, and you might say, why aren't you talking about the floods? What about Iran? Not important. Pales in comparison, honestly. If anything's going to spark off World War III, it's going to be Cierra's use of the C word, I think. I think that's the real threat to democracy that we need to face right now. And the real question that I have is when did we start looking to the contestants of Love Island to be the archetypes of moral, social, and racial virtue? All right? Have you seen the show? These people are spitting milk into each other's mouths to win $100,000, right? They're sluts trying to get paid. We don't look to them as role models. This is like when people, lionize athletes and they think just because some 6'6", 300-pound freak of nature can throw a football across an entire field, that he is supposed to be who you model a good marriage after. It's not, it doesn't make sense. It's incompatico. So I don't understand. I mean, have you seen it? Have you seen the show? I see the show and I think, okay, all of the only takeaway that I have from watching Love Island is that all of the contestants' parents must be dead. That's the only way I would do the show, is if all my parents were dead, right? If maybe my mom and dad got divorced, they got remarried, then 4 have to go. Right? My grandparents, hopefully they're gone. That's the only way that I would have simulated sex with strangers on television to win $100,000 and find true love. And it's crazy to me that we're just like ripping these people apart for, yes, they've said a naughty word. They've said a very bad naughty word, but what do you expect? Have you seen their actions? I'm not surprised that they're using bad words. And there's an unfortunate truth in here that I hate to be the bearer of, especially as a guy who looks like this. But listen, folks, the truth is the truth, no matter what white head it comes out of, or what other colors of heads. But here's the situation: is that the Latino, the Latinx, the Latinx community does feel a certain entitlement to using slurs of other communities, all right? And I don't want to paint in broad strokes here, but they're not only taking our jobs, they're taking our slurs. If I had a nickel for every time someone called me a cracker in Spanish, which I don't even know what it is, but I can tell by the hate in their eyes that it's that word. They had this problem with Yulissa, what was her name? Juliana Rafiki? Yulissa. They had this problem with Yulissa, episode 2 or 3, I think. She was ousted because a buffet of clips surfaced of her saying the N-word. I think she was trying to beat Rogan's record. I'm not sure, but it didn't reflect well on Peacock, and so the higher ups at Comcast said, oh, she's got to go. And apparently they didn't do enough due diligence. All right, I guess ICE didn't go through the files enough to see that not everyone had a sparkling clean record. All right, she may have had a green card, but she also thought she had a black card and a yellow card, and they didn't. They didn't have those. They just had a birth certificate. But unfortunately, that is not enough to use those words. And they're not good words. I don't use them. You shouldn't use them. But do you need to get kicked off of a reality show where you're basically having sex with people because you use a bad word in an Instagram story? Is that where we're at? I mean, I've already watched. I'm so invested in this show. You are doing more harm to the Asian community, who is currently caught up with Love Island and has invested at least 22 hours in this season to see who wins the honey grand. All right? That is doing far more harm, is removing a front runner and just throwing the whole thing into chaos. I'm not part of that community, but I am certainly part of the community that's caught up. I've invested about exactly 24 hours into seeing these idiots open mouth kiss each other, which, by the way, why are their mouths so open? They're trying to swallow the heads of the other contestants as if they think who can unlatch their jaw and extend their mouth the furthest is the perpetual challenge. That seems to be the unspoken challenge in the villa, is who can unlock their jaw from their skull and completely consume another one of the contestants. That seems to be one of the ways that people are trying to vote others out. And I love that strategy. I think that's a fantastic strategy. Hey, if you can't beat them, eat them. That's what I say. Can't spell beat without eat. That's just science. Actually, it's English. But yeah, man, I feel like just voting Cierra off, not voting is not really the word for it. What would be the word? Usurping, right? Staging a coup, right? I don't think that ousting her in the way, like if you, right? I don't think that ousting her in the way, like if you want justice, right? What's justice really about? Justice is about the wronged party feeling like punishment has been doled out that is proportional to the crime. But what I would also add to that definition of justice is that when administering the justice, you don't want to be inflicting more harm than the crime itself. And I'm not saying that's what's happening by removing Cierra from Love Island, but what I am saying is a lot of people have invested a lot of time into seeing who's going to take the $100,000 home. And I had my money on Cierra and Nick, and I think a lot of you guys did. I don't know what betting platforms you're using, but I stand to be out of a lot of money because my girl and my girl's gone and my guy's alone, and even his mom is now rooting for the other Alandria, who I love, by the way. I love Alandria, right? Taylor made a big mistake dumping her. I don't even think that's true. I think he just felt a better connection with Clark. You can tell I watch the show, and I am incensed that Cierra's gone because you've caused more harm. All right? You can't fix a problem by creating another arguably bigger problem, which is that now you have impugned the integrity of the Love Island selection process. All right? The natural selection of love on the island, right? This is Galapagos for sluts, basically, is what Love Island is. We're trying to see whose love can outcompete the other when there is abundance and yet also scarcity, okay? Darwin would be proud of what they're doing on Love Island. They're trying to meld the fittest male with the fittest female by testing, how much milk can each hold in their mouth and how much can they withstand competition. It's a great experiment that's been disrupted by virtue signalers and finger waggers and people who, honestly, many people who aren't even part of the communities that were disparaged by Cierra, who, by the way, her name starts with a C. I'm not saying that lets her say it, but I'm just saying maybe she thought she had a little more jurisdiction. She's like, well, I'm C, and I can say anything that starts with C. She can say cunt. Right? That starts with a C. These people aren't the brightest, so they're probably going on an alphabetical basis in terms of the words they feel they can use. Now, that doesn't give Yulissa any grace because her name starts with a Y, and the word she used starts with an N. So, sorry, Toots, but maybe, Cierra, you could argue that in court. You could go, well, I thought anything with a C was fair game. I don't know. I thought I could say anything with a C. And to be fair, I would kiss and have sex with any one of the contestants on Love Island. I just feel like that disclaimer is important to say, male or female. All right. But yes, you can't remove her this way. This is exactly what happened when Biden dropped out and they didn't hold a primary. They said, "Hey, it's Kamala." And they go, "Well," and America went, well, do we get a say?" And they go, "No. We know what's best. All right? Listen to Daddy. Listen to Daddy NC. We know what's best for you." And we said, "I don't wanna." And they said, "It's too bad. We're gonna get another 4 years of the real Daddy, Daddy T." It's a bummer, man. It's just a bummer. All right, I think less justice is actually being achieved by kicking Cierra off the island. If you really want Cierra to feel, pain and feel that she has done wrong, let her win Or let it play out. Let the show play out. Maybe she won't win, maybe she will. Keep her on the show. And then at the end of the show, and I think all reality shows should do this, no matter what's come up during their time sequestered on the show, texting on their fucking Hawaii phones that no one's going to buy, during that time, regardless of what appears on social media that people have dredged up because they love taking people down, right? When you can't rise up yourself, you got to take other randoms down who seem to be rising. If you really want justice, you let it play out. You let the reality show play out. And at the very end, you get a projector out. You get a guy who we have never seen before, right? He's a grip. He's a tech. He's wearing all black. He's got microphones. He's got headphones on. He doesn't even talk. He wheels in a projector. And on that screen is all the tweets you've ever tweeted where slurs were included or hate was mongered. And then the contestants, in one last vote, decide whether you should be drowned in the pool that no one has used. Because it's a damn shame to go 30 days without anyone using the pool. And what better way? What better way than to hold a sort of military tribunal at the end of Love Island USA Season 7 to hold accountable these racist skanks, right? Who I don't have any tolerance for, and I don't appreciate what they've said. I certainly appreciate what they've done and what I've seen. It's approaching whole, honestly, is what I've seen on the show. And we have all the guys vote, and then we have all the girls vote. And if they're found guilty, you drown them in the pool. You'll hold your and the person who has to hold their head down is actually the person they're currently in a couple with. And not that. That would be too easy. The person who has to drown them is the person who they've actually wanted to get to know a little bit better since they were in the villa but never had the opportunity. That's who needs to administer the justice, the pool drowning. I think that's reasonable, right? Because then everybody wins. The viewers at home, who, by the way, for the most part, don't give a shit what these people have said. They're watching their TV. Imagine you're watching American Idol, right? And Chris Daughtry, let's say it's round 8, right? There's still there's still 10 people left, or however many people are left at round 8. That's probably too many rounds. Let's say there's 10 people there and Chris Daughtry's there, and it comes up that he has a Confederate flag tattoo on his lower back. And that's not good, and that's not right. And it upsets a lot of people for a lot of valid reasons. But what if I were to tell you that because of that tattoo, he got voted off, and we never got such classics like It's Not Over or I'm Going Home, parentheses, to the place where I belong. Now, maybe in this alternate reality where he did get kicked off for being a South Will Rise Againer, maybe the songs are about that, right? It's Not Over, referring to the Civil War. I'm Going Home, referring to Richmond, the capital of the Confederacy, right? His Mecca, white Mecca. So who's to say? Maybe he could have even had a more successful career after getting kicked off early, as opposed to getting kicked off fourth. But these are the things you have to consider. I mean, we can't just be kicking people off because they've said naughty words, because the audience matters. All right, AM. I think who needs to be advocated more than ever is the audience, is the viewers of Love Island. We've dedicated literally an entire day, 24 hours, to remaining caught up on this bullshit show where we're watching hot people almost fuck each other because our sex lives and our personal lives are so empty that this is the only way that we can feel intravenous passion, right? That is what Love Island is. I've felt so intensely uncomfortable and aroused and happy and sad just watching this show. It's reality heroin, and it's good stuff. And we can't interfere with that holy ritual of watching these shows. right? You can't just kick people off because they say naughty words, all right? The people who are going to be willing to do the acts required to stay on the show are probably a little crazy. They probably say insane things. This is obviously the tip of the iceberg on social media. I mean, obviously, if you're going to come on the show and both your parents are still alive and you're going to bounce it like there's no tomorrow, right? You're going to shake your cake for America, even though your mom and dad are both part of America and watching. Yeah, you probably have said some nonsense, right? Some bullshit. You've let a few slurs fly. And I'm not saying that that's okay, but what the fuck do we expect? Have you seen the show? That's really all I can say. That's my biggest take. Have you seen the show? Can you believe Cierra used the C word on a social media post? And I go, have you seen the show? I'm surprised she didn't use more. I'm surprised she didn't tape her eyes on episode 10, right? I'm surprised when the guy from Manchester showed up, she didn't go ring-a-ding-a-ding-ding-ding-ding-ding. I'm surprised that didn't happen, right? And people are accusing Cierra. They're like, oh, well, she must have media training. She must have media training to conceal so adeptly her racist heart. It's like, guys, why are you thinking she has media training? Because she's only typed the slurs? Is that, you're like, oh, that must be thousands of dollars of media training, is because she's only typed the bad words. She's never actually said them into a camera like that dumb bitch Yulissa. All right, Yulissa had a microphone and a DSLR pointed at her, and she went, boop, and you're out of here. But it took the audience long enough to find that Cierra had said these things because she has media training. All right, and she knew that stories disappear after 24 hours. That's called media training. No, that's called being alive in 2025. That's just kind of an innate thing that you come out of the womb knowing that your stories disappear after 24 hours. And yes, people can take screenshots, but the risk is low. The risk of a slur on a story coming out is low. The risk of a slur coming out on a podcast is high. That's a high risk, right? And so I'm sorry Yulissa didn't receive the coveted and probably expensive media training that Cierra underwent. I think it was like 3 years in Mossad. I think Cierra did 3 years with Mossad, and then she did a brief stint. It was a rotational program between the White House press corps and, I don't know, she had a few fireside chats with the guy from Boeing. I mean, guys, she doesn't have media training. And even if she does, who cares? Oh, so someone's going to tell you that you should be smiling most of the time on camera because it doesn't look great when you're not smiling? I got that. I was told that when I was on the Food Network. Brag. I was told that when I was on the Food Network. Okay? Sorry to just name drop like that. Anne Burrell is dead, and may she rest in peace. I'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, I mean, I was on the Food Network, and I was not smiling the entire time I was on camera because we're on camera for hours and hours and hours. That's what reality TV is, and you don't know what they're going to use. But the producers had to tell me, hey, buddy, whenever we look at you, it looks like you are plotting to assassinate one of the chefs. You have a deadness in your eyes, and if you could just turn up the corners of your lips, that would help alleviate some of the school shooter energy you are bringing to the Food Network. And so I did. And if you want to say that means I have media training, then that means I have media training, folks. And that's why you haven't seen me slip up on this program. And that's not entirely true. I'm sure you could go through this podcast and find a lot of things that I've said that are regrettable that probably wouldn't like surfaced if I was on Peacock television. Luckily, they have not responded to my emails, so I don't see that transpiring in the near future. Well, let's get off of Cierra. I think I've said what I need to say. It's insane that people are looking to her as a role model, and I'm insane. I'm shocked people are surprised. I'm shocked people are surprised that the people trying to suck each other's faces off on Peacock might have said something a little uncouth in the past. And people go, oh, it's not even that far back. It's like 2004. It's like, okay, have you seen the show? Have you seen the show? It's insane. It looks like a Roman orgy, right? You know those scenes where you walk into like a half market, half orgy, and there's pillows everywhere, and people are painted gold, and right, and they'll feed you a grape, and you can tug on their nuts. That's the show, right? And if you walked into this Roman orgy where you know someone is lying on a table, and you're allowed to just sit on them wherever, would you be surprised if the guy lying on the table saw someone and it was like, he's a little boop? No, you wouldn't. You would be like, hey, shut your little whore mouth and put my nuts in it or something, right? It's just, it's insane that we're holding these people to such high standards. Now, let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic, which it's all sad news today. And this isn't really breaking, so this is going to be, we're going to consider this late breaking. I think we can cut off the emergency broadcast now. Late breaking news. Anne Burrell, Food Network star of Worst Cooks in America, has passed. And it's very sad. I knew Anne. I talked to her on occasion. I don't think she really liked me. I'm not saying that gives me motive because I have an alibi. I was actually cooking when she was found in her condo in a bathtub full of pills. I was making a dish that I learned on the Food Network. I was making a lobster ravioli. Actually, I was at the market selecting lobsters. You can ask anyone of the fishmonger. They will attest to my being there. But no, it's very sad that Anne is gone. I don't know if they're going to keep Worst Cooks going. I don't know if they're going to tap Guy Fieri. He's kind of got his own thing going on. I mean, they have the hair. He has the hair, but I think you need more than that. I think you need to be a little sharp. Guy's not really sharp enough. You need like a Simon Cowell kind of Gordon Ramsay figure. And Gordon Ramsay also has the hair. Trump has the hair. Trump should be the next Worst Cooks judge. I don't think he can cook, but he has the attitude. So it's very sad. It's very sad that Anne is no longer with us. And yeah, I mean the chat was going wild. Worst Cooks chat going nuts. Did you see the news? Oh my God, so sad. And we were all pretty upset about it. But I don't think it should come as a shock that someone who has made a living, and a good living, someone who has made a fine living, coaching people who do not know how to cook for 26 seasons. She has trained people who have set their kitchens on fire, who have poisoned their spouses accidentally, people who have burnt peas, me, people who have sliced a finger off trying to get the pit out of an avocado. These are the ragtag group of wannabe chefs that come onto this program. And likely they're just trying to get clout. They're trying to use this as a launching pad for some other kind of career in entertainment, or at least that's what everything's become. Worst Cooks used to be great. It used to be, make Worst Cooks great again. It used to be crazy people. Like TLC lunatics who have like piles of dead cats and newspapers from the 60s about the JFK assassination piled up in their home on the stove that they didn't really even know they forgot they had it. They forgot they even had a stove because their apartment is in such disarray, which only mirrors what's going on in their mind. Those are the people who used to come on to Worst Cooks. And we had one of those people on the show with us, and she was voted off far too soon. I don't remember her name. She had incredibly long hair, 2 pigtails, very quirky. She knew every piece of trivia about the judges. She was quirky. She was a genuine weirdo who wasn't coming on to try to increase her following and monetize her persona. She was just kind of a freak, and I loved that. And they voted her off way too soon because she wasn't a hot, sexy single or whatever. I don't know. They didn't feel it. They didn't feel it with her, and they felt it more with some of the young cast who were very flamboyantly gay and entertaining, right? But just a lot. But the point I want to make is that it shouldn't come as a big surprise that that someone who has made a living for the past 10 plus years eating food prepared by people who do not know how to cook. They're unaware of the proper internal temperature of any meat. They don't know it. So a woman who has ostensibly eaten raw chicken, pork, beef, and turkey, probably deer, duck, and fish, a woman who's eaten every animal that went on the ark raw for the last 26 seasons, for her to be found deceased in any way, shape, or form isn't to me entirely surprising. Now, I'm not saying that's why. I'm sure there could have been other issues. It could have been mental health, right? It could have been could have been an aneurysm, a heart attack. You know, freak things happen. I know joggers who have just dropped dead. I know a guy who was riding his bike, healthy as a horse. Car hit him. Not his fault. That's not what happened to poor Anne. I think she was just found. She was found in her apartment. And found in your apartment seems consistent with the fate of someone who has eaten 26 seasons worth of undercooked meat. I mean, I hate to be crass here, but that it doesn't seem... I know there's a saying that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but I have to imagine 26 seasons of undercooked meat makes you weaker, right? Wouldn't you assume that nearly 30 seasons of salmonella, botulism, and whatever, that's the latest terrorist we had deported, his name was Botulismo, whatever the fuck the turkey one or the pork one is, trichinosis. Yes. Wouldn't you assume that 30 seasons of salmonella, botulism, and trichinosis might affect your immune system? There should be a limit, a term limit, or like you should be able to age out of this role purely for your own safety, like a boxer. No one should have let her do 26 seasons of Worst Cooks in America. That's not a healthy way to live. You know, and you can look at other Food Network stars. You can look at Guy Fieri and think to yourself, why hasn't he died? And I will tell you, perfectly valid question. I don't know. But I do know that the D&Ds that he goes to, they know how to cook. All right? They may not know how to cook for someone who wants to live past 55, but they do know how to make something taste good and be above food safety standards. That's the minimum, right? I was on the show. People are cutting themselves. They're bleeding into the food. Who's to say that she didn't contract some kind of blood-borne disease because she ate someone's avocado tuna salad, right? A nice avocado tuna sesame salad with some red balsamic vinaigrette that actually wasn't red. It was because Kermit bled into it and nobody caught it. I mean, I remember this. The first challenge I did, I cooked them some Thai stir-fry bullshit. I was chewing gum. My gum fell into the pan. My gum fell into the wok, and I removed it, put it in my pocket, 17 cameras around. I'm sure there's some footage. I'm sure someone has footage of me stashing my gum after it fell into the wok, and then I just served them the food. It doesn't, I mean, they will refuse to eat certain food that, if it truly looks inedible, but there's a lot sneaking under the radar that they just don't see. Digestion starts in the mouth, right? You take a piece of raw chicken, you put it in your mouth, the poisoning has begun. It started to flow through your veins, and you might think, oh, well, that's not a problem if you spit it out, even if it happens 10 times, 20 times. But here's the deal, guys. It happened hundreds of times. Maybe thousands of times has Anne Burrell had to eat not safe food, inedible things. I mean, people might as well have been serving her water from the airplane bathroom. This is not a safe workplace environment. Someone needs to go down. I want one of the contestants to be arrested. You know, maybe the winner of my season. She cooked steak 4 times in a row. Kind of took the easy route. No penalties for playing it safe? Whatever. I mean, look, maybe the runner-up, a good friend of mine, Sammy, who placed second because Anne decided to cook prawns, something they'd never cooked before. Maybe that's a motive. I don't know. I mean, she's my girl, and I'll testify, or at least I'll visit her, and give her a phone call through the glass once justice is administered. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's very sad, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that someone who had to coach people up from cooking poison to cooking edible food died. It's very sad, but I do think there needs to be some kind of limit. You know, you're not allowed to box. I mean, we all saw the Mike Tyson fight. Someone should have seen Anne looking a little woozy in season 22, and been like, all right, we got to pull this. This is not going to work. So anyway, rest in peace, Anne Burrell. We wish you well in the afterlife, in the big kitchen in the sky. What else do we have in the news? Anything exciting? Anything important? Trump heightens criticism of Putin. Nobody cares. All right, here's an article. So let's, in closing with our theme of sadness, the Texas floods, which is also the name of a WNBA team coming to you soon. Why the Texas floods were so deadly? Well, we're going to get into that, but yeah, I mean it's horrific. They found all the Girl Scouts, the campers. They're dead. There wasn't enough warning. Scientists say a hotter planet is driving more intense storms. We've been hearing this. The floods that ravaged Texas last week, leaving more than 150 people dead, occurred in 105. I have dyslexia. Occurred in a region known as Flash Flood Alley. Well, I know homes are probably cheap there, folks, but there is a reason. I'm not saying it's their fault that, these people got washed away, but if you live in a neighborhood in Chicago called Gun Violenceville, you're not going to be surprised when the hail of bullets starts pouring. While the storm developed quickly, the National Weather Service also, by the way, gun violence is increasing due to the warming climate, I've heard. And while the storm developed quickly, the National Weather Service offered what appeared to have been a relatively good forecast in a rapidly developing situation, according to Weather Service officials. Well, that's not good. While the storm developed quickly, the National Weather Service offered what appeared to have been a relatively good forecast in a rapidly developing situation. All right, well, whoever the meteorologist was on duty at the NWS during the floods here, he needs to fucking find people. You need to put him on a raft, and he doesn't get to come back until he's recovered a few bodies and saved a few dogs. How about that? All right, that guy needs to be held accountable, right? If accountability is the name of the game here, if it's the word of the year in 2025, honestly, the word of the decade, if accountability is the word of the decade, then shouldn't the weatherman who reported a good forecast on the day of the deadliest floods in Texas history be held accountable? Shouldn't he be put in a small dinghy with an oar and told to paddle to find survivors and dredge out victims, right? Save dogs, etc. Sorry, it's really dusty down here in my basement. And but what are you gonna do? I live in Dust Bowl Alley. Well, that's not good, God, could you imagine being that guy? I wonder how he feels. He was like, yeah, we're seeing it's partly cloudy, but it's going to be a pretty great day to go to the beach here in Galveston, Texas. We're along Lake Cucamonga or whatever lakes. It's going to be a great day to go to the lake. Put your toes in the water, throw a stick out in the lake for your dog. It's going to be a great day to just get out there on that lake, inflate a tube, pop a few beers, and close your eyes because nothing bad's happening today. Back to you, Jim. Cut to that guy 2 days later. He's neck deep in water. He's like, so everyone's dead. I'm developing trench foot. And, there goes Jim. He just washed by me. Well, I don't know who to say back to you, but back to you, studio. Despite the known risks in the area and warnings that were issued around midnight Thursday, the floods became one of the deadliest weather events in recent American history. How did that happen? It's too early to say with certainty that these slow-moving thunderstorms were made worse by man-made climate change. The air's getting warmer, it holds more moisture, blah, 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 blah. Lack of flash flood warning systems along the banks of the Guadalupe River. Officials considered installing such a system 8 years ago, but ultimately decided against it. I'm guessing due to cost. Well, I wonder, well, let's see how much 105 lives are worth in terms of the budgets of Texas Hill Country. For years, local officials kept them safe with a word-of-mouth system. When floodwaters started raging upriver, camp leaders warned those downriver a water surge was coming. But was that enough? Obviously not. The old can attached to a string attached to a can system was not enough of an early alarm system to warn people to get to safety for these floods. Yikes. Officials considered supplementing the system with sirens and river gauges. I guess that's just along with other modern communication tools, we can do all the water level monitoring we want, but if we don't get that information to the public in a timely way, this whole thing is not worth it. When catastrophic floodwaters surged through Kerr County last week, there were no sirens or early flood monitors. Instead, there were text alerts that came late for some residents and were dismissed or unseen by others. Guys, who pays attention to text alerts? Any text alert I get, emergency thunderstorm, child missing, elder captured, tornado coming your way. I'm like, dismiss. It's not real. Anything I get on my phone via text is not real. Joe Biden is not texting me. Kamala is not texting me. There is no tornado. Okay? That is not auspicious. That lamp was gonna fall anyway. Look, you can't send out a text alert to people. First of all, a lot of people have airplane mode on, right? Because they're being so sucked into their phones, we literally have to throw them into the couch across the room and put it on airplane mode. We have to pretend now like we're on an airplane just so we can get anything done. So we can respond to an email, so we can go outside, so we can look into the eyes of our dog and remember that we have a dog. We're doing everything we can to be a sane person in society by removing ourselves from our phones. We're trying to gain distance and set boundaries with our phones, okay? You can't tell me that a text alert is going to save anybody. When has a text alert saved anybody? Never, right? You get a text, you go, hey, there's a baby missing. It's a block away from you. You go, delete. And then you Google, how to silence Amber Alert notifications. That's what you do. Right? Do you want to know why they showed up late? Because everyone had fucking jailbroken their phone and turned off all this bullshit. Right? I'm trying to sleep. I don't need to know that a flood's coming. All right? If it's going to take me, I've seen movies. I've seen people waking up in the middle of a river on a mattress. Fine. I need to get my 8 hours. If a flood's coming, I'm going to need to be rested. I'm going to need to be rested before I can be rescued. If you're not rested, you can't get rescued because people who are tired, they don't have the wherewithal to make torches to signal the helicopters. They don't have the strength to climb on to a chimney that's the only thing left standing. All right? They have bags under their eyes, they have eye crusties, and a stick hits them in the face, and it's over. So yeah, I don't think anything's ever been accomplished through text warnings. I mean, text warnings, guys. No one is looking at text warnings. You know what I get texts about? I get texts about BOGO deals on sunglasses. So the same medium that's delivering me BOGO deals on sunglasses cannot be the one used to alert me a devastating flood is roaring my way, because I'm going to treat both with the same level of importance, which is 0. It's not real. The BOGO deal's not even real. I don't even believe that's real. I just think they want me to engage with this content. I think they want to get me into their email marketing system. And then when I go to the website to check out the deal, they go, oh, that was yesterday. But now that you're here, you want to buy some sunglasses for 15% off? And I go, well, what do they look like? And I'll consider it. And that's how they hook you. So I don't do it, right? Because you respond to one fucking flood text, and then that's all you're getting. Hey, can you donate to Flood Awareness Week? Right? Can you pitch in to install some more alarms along the river? And you go, I don't even think they're putting them there. Right? I think that money's going straight to the camp presidents who are fattening their wallets and going out and blowing it all on the slots. Don't tell me that the president of a camp doesn't have a severe gambling addiction. You can't tell me that. All right, he's a child at heart. He wanted to be Peter Pan for his whole life, and he has blown his life savings no less than 3 times at the Mohegan Sun. And that's his prerogative. What I'm just saying is that no one can be expected to take a text alert seriously. All right, you can call me, but even then, I'm going to be like, spam, flood calling, spam, devastating flood calling, ignore. I'm pooping. I'm watching Instagram while pooping. I can't take this call right now. Now, that begs the question, what would serve as an effective flood alarm system if it's not a text and if it's not people hollering down the river? Oh, there's a flood coming. I said there's a flood coming. Pass it along. I mean, that's what they were doing? They were playing flood telephone? We've all played telephone. By the end, it's not what was at the beginning. The end is different. That's what telephone is. That's the game. The people at the top of the river, they yell something that makes sense. They're like, there's a flood coming, you hear? You better run now. Y'all gonna die. And, that's cogent. And that campsite gets out of here. And then the second one, there's a flood coming, y'all gonna die. And it keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going. And then, it gets to the 8th campsite, and it's like, well, there's an apple pie crumble, and come on, get some pie. And then everyone gets washed away. Everyone gets subsumed by the waters of the Guadalupe River, which, by the way, we're having deported. We are deporting the entire river that has committed grave and mass acts of violence against U.S. citizens. So, yeah, obviously they need some better systems. And the problem generally with natural disaster alerts is that people overestimate how prepared they are and underestimate the devastation that nature can inflict. It's like people need to watch Twister once a year. They need to watch The Impossible and Twister once a year just to conceptualize that you are ants on this planet. There's no way that you're going to be able to fucking, grab onto a shipping pallet and be okay. That's what people think. They go, oh, well, if a flood comes, I'll just go to high ground. I'll climb a tree. What happens if that tree falls, right? Shit's going to happen. There's a lot of water. And you're one guy, and that's one tree, and the roots are shallow. It's a weeping willow, you retard. Fucking get to safety earlier. Leave, right? Maybe don't live in Flash Flood Alley. I mean, I do have sympathy, obviously, for the people, but if you live in Flash Flood Alley, wouldn't you have, as a part of the charm, as a part of the local charm, wouldn't you have some type of sirens? I mean, I can't believe they were playing camp-to-camp telephone as an alert system. That's crazy to me. That's crazy, but this happens. I mean, my grandma, when we had the hurricane that was supposed to just fuck up the west coast of Florida, my grandma, who lives in Sarasota, I assumed she left. I didn't text, I didn't call, because I was like, yeah, it's crazy. The governor, even DeSantis, is like, all right, I admit it, weather's real, you gotta leave. You're gonna die. And my grandma was like, I don't think it's gonna hit me. Probably everyone around me, but I'm gonna be that one house that's left standing because I did the rosary earlier today. She's not even that grandma. That's on the other side. But yeah, she stayed and she was okay. And that happens enough, right? You hear of the disaster, you get the alert, you stay, nothing happens. That happens enough that we're lulled into a sense of safety. That's a complete illusion. That's not real at all. But I do get it. If I lived in Flash Flood Alley, I too would probably be like, let's lock the doors. Let's close the windows and lock the doors, and we'll be okay. We have a Ring doorbell so we can be aware of what is happening outside. So I feel pretty safe. I feel pretty good. Maybe what should we do? Maybe we'll put a towel under all the doors, just like we used to do to keep weed out of the halls of the dorms. Let's put a towel by the doors so that the water can't come in. We'll put a towel on the door and we'll lock the doors and windows. And I get that. And it's hard because only through catastrophe do people learn, right? This Air India thing, that's probably going to revolutionize air training in India because that was a big fucking flop. 9/11, you had the implementation of TSA, which granted doesn't do anything, but at least it's something. You know, it's funny though, because it's like, that's not how 9/11 happened, right? It wasn't because somebody snuck a bomb onto the plane. It's because somebody got on a plane and decided to make the plane a bomb. So really, you should focus on not making the plane something that isn't a bomb. I don't know how you do that, but maybe just coat it in Vaseline so it can't hit a building. It just slides off it. I'm not an aerospace engineer. Okay? I don't even know if that's the right title. But yeah, you can't have an alert system that fucking primitive. You can't have an alert system that primitive. But yes, my point is that when disaster strikes, that's when things change. When there are mass casualties, that's when things that's when at least effort, and by that I mean money, is put into it. So, you know, they're gonna have flood alarms, right? Joplin, Missouri. I don't know what's going on there. After that huge tornado that gave the guy fucking flesh-eating fungus in his whole body, I don't know what's happening in Joplin. But let's check. Let's check what fucking early warning systems. Lessons learned from the Joplin tragedy led to several key changes aimed at better communicating the severity of the threat and ensuring a more effective public response. That is the problem. That is the key problem that these emergency systems have, is relaying the danger of the threat and the validity of the danger. That's the tough part, is yes, it's communicating the severity of the threat. And it's not going to be done by a text. If you have some air raid sirens, that's probably good. I think air raid sirens are good. But what you really need is someone who's on death row anyway, right? And stay with me on this. Someone who's already been sentenced to death, and let's be real, we're talking about Missouri, we're talking about Texas. There are those people. They're waiting to die. They're going to die. You know, it's tied up in, you know, he can't get an attorney, whatever, but his fate is sealed. Light that guy on fire, right? You can double dip, say it's for Gaza, light him on fire, have him run as far as he can, while on fire, mind you, through the streets, yelling, "There's a flood a-coming. I say, there's a flood coming." And then he dies. And you go, oh, wow, well, if the guy who's actively on fire is worried about a flood, that must be a lot of water, right? Because you'd think that he would want water, given he is on fire. But no, this is actually so much water, it would be worse than the fire. So we should get the hell out of here, right? That's something, maybe. All right, so let's see what they did in Joplin, Missouri. Shift to impact-based warnings. The National Weather Service moved to an impact-based warning system for severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and flash floods. This approach focuses on communicating the potential impacts and risks to the public. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. Communicating the potential impacts and risks. Okay, the potential impacts. How are you going to communicate that? Well, it's easier than ever to make artwork with AI. So I think a great way to communicate the impacts would just be for the National Weather Service to start sending you AI images of your family dead from a flood. The bloated corpses of your wife, children, and pets after a flood sweeps through your town and you didn't leave. Right? And then they send you an alternative picture where you're, I don't know, at your cousin's in El Paso and you're all playing Uno or Monopoly or whatever game your cousin prefers. Probably Catan. He's a little weird. You don't see him that much, but hey, you're glad you went because you're not a bloated corpse on the side of a riverbank. And that's, you need to relay the impact, and what better way than using this technology that's supposed to make our lives better, using the technology to show what will happen if you do not evacuate. Your family will be dead, right? In Joplin, they will be swept up into the sky, their limbs torn asunder. You will be hit in the face by your son's leg, knocking you unconscious, and then a car will roll on top of you and your wife. This is the video that the National Weather Service sends you via email, via text, via Instagram, because that's where you're gonna be. These alerts also need to start going out over social media, right? If we're gonna doom scroll so much, how about we doom scroll and then also be kept aware of our potential impending doom as we're doom scrolling? That seems to make a little sense, right? Don't text, don't call, fucking send me a notification on Instagram from a verified account, by the way. All right, I'm not going to see it if it goes into my request folder. It should be mandatory that we all follow the U.S. government and, the National Weather Service so that it goes into our proper main inbox, our primary inbox, our business inbox, right? Frame it as, hey, you've been selected to evacuate from your county or else face this fate. And then they show you a video of alligators, right? Alligators that were swept in from the floods, or sharks that were picked up from the ocean and now are circling around your town of Joplin, Missouri. We have a little Sharknado going. We have a little alligator flood, and your family is eaten. Your family is swept away. And this is motivation enough for you to leave. And they could even say, hey, post that you're safe, right? And we'll start paying out bonuses. Instagram does this. They pay out bonuses for carousels, right? Little pictures that you can slide in between. Post a carousel of you and your family alive after heeding the warnings of the National Weather Service and receive a bonus from Meta. Amounts up to $5, maybe $6 for that post. That's basically what I've been getting on Instagram is I put hard work into it. I make a carousel, and they go, here's $2. Thank you for participating in this month's bonus program. So, yeah, I think that's what the National Weather Service needs to be doing, because you really need to hammer home the impact. These people aren't picturing it. You have to picture it. People are visual. We are visual learners, all right? Next time there's a flood, fucking send them a clip of the impossible. Don't tell them it's in Thailand, right? People are dumb. They fall for AI shit all the time. Label it Houston, Texas, clip of the impossible, ginormous tidal wave. You go, I didn't know there were so many palm trees in Texas, but then there's death, and then there's destruction. Then there's Kate Winslet getting her boob pierced by a twig. Is it her? I don't know what her name is. Is it Kate Winslet? Who's in the impossible? Naomi Watts. My apologies, Kate Winslet. And so that's my recommendation for the National Weather Service is either use AI or repurpose films, repurpose disaster movies and send them out. Why am I not getting GIFs of the movie 2012? The Day After Tomorrow. We have the corpus. We have the content, right? Just clip it up and send it to me and go, hey, this is going to be you in about 2 minutes if you don't get the hell out of there. All right? Escape the alley, get on a high rise, fucking go to your cousins, play Settlers of Catan, get beat because he never loses, and go back to your washed out home. And you can clean it out, and it's not going to take as long because all your family's still alive. You don't have to go back and take a putty knife to the back of the window of your F-150 and scrape 2 of your family members off because they all went with you. Even though they don't get along with the cousin, even though he uses natural deodorant, which is honestly worse than nothing at all. So, National Weather Service, please start repurposing content. It will save lives. Also, hey, let's install some alarms. Flash Flood Alley, let's install some alarms. Let's put some alarms in. All right, the whole can string system, the telephone's not working. Justice for Cierra. Rest in peace, Anne Burrell. Thank you all. Good night.